how dare you come for cat ladies? The cover of Time magazine, Taylor Swift, the ultimate fabulous cat lady. Like, what are you doing?
I'm a cat lady. You're a cat lady.
You are a cat lady. You are the ultimate cat lady.
Cat lady.
Yes, I am.
Welcome to my channel, Outspoken Samantha. If you are new here, welcome. I do appreciate you clicking on the video to watch it, and since you are here, I would love it if you would help me to grow this channel and hit that subscribe button now. And of course, to those of you that are returning, you know I appreciate you clicking on the videos, hitting that like button, leaving your comments, engaging in the conversations, and I would also love it if you would make sure that you are subscribed as well. So I just have to say it is so good to be back. I have been traveling for the last couple of weeks, so I have been sitting on the sideline just kind of watching various things happen in the media, and sometimes as someone who creates content in this sphere, it is really difficult to sit back and not be able to offer, you know, real opinions on some of the things going on, especially since these events unfold so fast and you have to comment on pretty much right when they happen. So it can be difficult to not be able to do that when there are so many other things going on in real life. But of course, that's just how it rolls. But when it comes to this particular story, I know this happened a few days ago, but it is still relevant in the media. People are still talking about it and still enraged by it, that I really felt like I just needed to jump in and weigh in on what has been happening here. So as the candidate for vice president on the Republican ticket to run alongside Trump, of course, we are going to start hearing from the left about how horrible and particularly misogynistic JD Vance is. And why is it particularly significant for the left to paint JD Vance as an anti-woman, female-hating misogynist? Well, because unfortunately, since women are far more led by their feelings than facts and reality, women are carrying a large part of the support for the Democrat Party, because women, unfortunately for us, are so easily blinded to what's really going on around us, and all that it takes is just triggering an emotional response of some kind, even if those triggers are solely based on just talking points and not actually rooted in reality, that women are just able to tune out the actual disasters going on around us in the schools our children are attending, the crime making it impossible for women to stay safe in our own cities, and the fact that under the far left ideas of today's radical Democrats, we don't even have the right to our own bathrooms anymore. But as long as the left can make it seem like JD Vance and Donald Trump hate women, even though in reality it's the left who actually hates women, as evidenced by the fact that their idea of respect for women is to eliminate the very definition of the word, but as long as they can emotionally appeal to women and make it seem like JD Vance and Trump are the threat, women will fall for it. So with the goal of painting JD Vance in this particular light of hating women, of being a misogynist, the left has honed in on a speech that he gave 3 years ago in 2021 after he had launched his campaign for a Senate seat in Ohio. And he was speaking to a conservative group of young people at a college level, talking about the very important and very real issue of the declining birth rates in the US, which, by the way, are at dire levels right now. And not only that, about how the left has become the anti-family party and how anti-family messaging has had devastating effects on the country in so many different ways. While the left sells these anti-family ideas as women's empowerment and getting women out from under the thumb of controlling conservative men whose entire purpose in life is to keep women from living their lives, reaching their potential, thinking for themselves, or making goals for themselves, the goal of this messaging in reality, at least in part, has been to remove purpose from people's lives and to have their entire focus be on themselves and to destroy the single greatest institution that leads to a prosperous, selfless, productive, and thriving society, which are strong family homes and children being raised by loving and selfless parents. And as I said, it has worked. So in this speech that JD Vance gave, again, 3 years ago, he pointed out how this anti-family messaging by Democrats has really changed society, and particularly how it has changed women, and it has essentially beholden women to the left and influenced women to vote for policies that reinforce their own misery and are bringing down society with them. And in my evidence-based opinion, these things have not made women better. And also, as JD Vance is under fire for these things, despite it being being 100% true, our society is being run by people who have no stake in the game. If you have no kids, then you don't really have to think about the reality of what the future of the country looks like. You can operate on the emotion of whatever triggers you today, and you have absolutely no reason to consider what the long-term effects on society as a whole are going to be. As long as someone validates the feelings that you have now in the moment, regardless of how irrational or harmful the result might be, all that matters is that your feelings are addressed. So after the speech that JD Vance gave to this conservative group, he also did an interview with Tucker Carlson to further, I guess, double down on the points that he was making. And this is the 30-second clip that has been circulating over the last several days to paint JD Vance as someone who just hates women.
What I was basically saying is that we're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. And it's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children. And how does it make any sense that we've turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it?
So as this clip was making its rounds on social media, as the majority of today's women, again, operate solely on emotion, no one cared if this was taken out of context or if there were parts of it missing or if it was clipped to intentionally make this man look as bad as possible. Nope, they just cared how it made them feel right now, and that's the most important thing. And as a result, we have several unhinged takes to respond to, but we'll only pick a couple because if not, we would be here until Christmas of 2026 if we went through all of the hysteria that women lit up the internet with, because that's what happens when you try to ask women to take responsibility for their choices. Accountability and personal responsibility are just more oppressive concepts invented by men to keep women down, so we can't have that. So if we're going to talk about unhinged and hysterical reactions, that pretty much means we are going to bring Whoopi Goldberg into the conversation because the two are pretty much synonymous with each other. So this is what, as she declared herself to be the ultimate cat lady, had to say about this.
Rumors are growing that Republicans, are second-guessing their VP choice.
Oh, yeah.
And resurfaced with a video of JD Vance, and it's not really helping him connect with a lot of voters. Take a look.
We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. And it's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children. And how does it make any sense that we've turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it?
Sir.
Wow.
There are people who have chosen not to have children for whatever reason. There are people who want to have children who cannot. How dare you? You never had a baby. Your wife had a baby, but you never had a baby. So you know nothing about this. And how dare you? And women, you heard how he thinks of you.
The hypocrisy is off the charts. It's astonishing to me that in this instance alone, liberal women are suddenly remembering what a woman is. And they'll suddenly tell you that men can't have an opinion on pregnancy and childbirth, but because of the things that they advocate for, utter disrespect for the greatest thing a woman can do, which is to literally carry a human being and grow a human being in their body. Disrespect for that role is happening. It's because of liberal women that crap like this is allowed to continue. And if we say anything about it, liberal women will be the first ones to jump in and tell you to shut up.
Trans women getting pregnant is not as far off as you'd think. In the past 10 years, 50 babies have been born from a uterus transplant. How this works is a person with a damaged or missing uterus gets a new uterus. Then they get pregnant, then they give birth to a child via C-section.
And people like Whoopi Goldberg would be perfectly fine if JD Vance decided to get his own uterus just so he could talk about this issue. And if we criticized him in that moment, she'd be the first one to tell us to be quiet. Secondly, JD Vance was not talking about women who can't get pregnant or who have health issues that prevent them from being able to carry a baby of their own, or who have life circumstances where having children of their own just hasn't happened for them. And he explicitly said as much in the speech where this issue stemmed from, that Democrats have to leave out in order for their argument to hold any water, because their arguments fall apart when they include the entire story.
Now let me do the necessary throat clearing, because I do think it's important. Look, a lot of people are unable to have kids for very complicated and important reasons. I know, good friends of mine who have struggled to find the right girl, find the right guy. There are people, of course, for biological reasons, medical reasons, that can't have children. The target of these remarks is not them. It's important to point that out.
The target of these remarks is not them. He is not denigrating people who face the very real struggle of not being able to have children for any number of reasons. But of course, acknowledging the entirety of what he's saying would make it more challenging for Democrats to emotionally manipulate women, so they have to leave that out and just say that JD Vance believes all women are childless cat ladies whose voice shouldn't be heard. And women are allowing themselves to be manipulated by this. And this includes Jennifer Aniston, who also had something deeply valuable to say on this topic, because I'm sure, like all celebrities who weigh in on these issues, she opted to do a little bit of research and tried to understand the point that Vance was making. No, of course she didn't do that. They never do. They do the opposite of that. Tell these people what to think and say, and that's what they think and say. So Aniston responded with this.
On Wednesday, I truly can't believe this is coming from a potential VP of the United States. All I can say is, Mr. Vance, I pray that your daughter is fortunate enough to bear children of her own one day. Aniston, who has shared her personal IVF journey in the past, continued, I hope she will not need to turn to IVF as a second option, because you are trying to take that away from her too.
But of course, Jennifer Aniston had to be fact-checked, as she falsely claimed that the Republican presidential duo are trying to take IVF away from women, which has been debunked numerous times. But again, we can't have celebrities thinking through the things that they promote. Now, it's not surprising that liberal women would react this way. However, conservative women have taken their share of offense to this as well. So let's look at a couple of those responses. There was one in particular that came from Tomi Lahren, who responded to a comment from Clay Travis. Clay Travis's post said, one thing that Harrison Butker and JD Vance children controversies have demonstrated is that many, maybe most, who don't have kids, women especially, are profoundly insecure about their decision and take any mention of the issue as intense criticism. If you're happy and secure about a life decision you've made, you generally don't care if people disagree with it. I suspect what's really going on here is that most childless women aren't actually happy with their choice, but resent anyone suggesting that might be true. Childless men may also be insecure with their choice, but since men can have kids at any age, it doesn't sting in the same way. Many men figure if they change their mind, they can have kids one day. Women don't have that option. I also think many women end up not having kids because they can't find men they deem worthy of having kids with, and that aids in the resentment and anger these women feel when their lack of children is pointed out. And then he went on to discuss the dire situation of the global population in general, but Tomi Lahren responded and said, I completely disagree with this assessment, Clay. I will also say this, poking fun at someone's childless status is not going to go over well with any woman, Republican, independent, or moderate. As a woman who is 31 years old and has many friends in their mid-30s and early 40s, it's not easy for everybody to have kids. Taking shots at this is not going to go over well with anybody. Vance needs to be very mindful of this. And I honestly have to disagree with Tomi on this one. First, I don't feel like JD Vance is poking fun at anyone. It may have been a bit of a snide comment, but ultimately what he said was true. And as I've said in the past, we don't have a messaging problem here. We have a truth problem where people are so offended by the truth that they want to be lied to in order to feel better in the moment. And they don't really care about what happens when you lie to them or lie to others. But then what happens is if you ignore the problem, then you can't address it or fix it. And the reality is that more women are childless by choice. Our birth rates in the US are at an almost 20-year low. We are not at replacement levels. Women are also more depressed than ever, with more and more who are unable to cope with everyday life without being medicated, while they get on TikTok and convince you that they're happy being all alone so that other women will join them in being happy and alone. Not because they're convinced they'll actually be happy in the long term, but if they can make it so that they are surrounded by fewer women who remind them of the mistake they made to remain alone, as in not have women in their lives who had chosen to get married and have kids, then they can continue to lie to themselves that they made the right choice. And it doesn't matter how we package this messaging. We've tried stats, we've tried truth, we've tried tried our messaging, our memes, our data, our science. We've talked about women's biological clock. We've told women that they can stop trying to be men. We have tried it all. At this point, it does not matter what we say. If women are not willing to acknowledge the truth, we can be as nice or as harsh as we want to be. It is not going to make a difference. And I think it is a huge mistake for conservative, Republican, independent women to think that gentle parenting on these issues is going to win liberal women over. So let's look at one more from the relatively conservative side of the aisle, and this is from Meghan McCain, which, if we're honest, is she really a conservative? Because I think that's up for debate, but this is what she had to say. She says, "I've been trying to warn every conservative man I know, these JD comments are activating women across all sides, including my most conservative Trump-supporting friends. These comments have caused real pain and are just innately unchristian. This is not who we are." And again, I would have to wholeheartedly disagree with you, Meghan McCain, because we're the party of truth, of facts, and of honesty. We respect people enough to give them the cold, hard facts because we trust people's own ability to address the problems and to solve problems, but they can't do that if they don't know what the facts are. And pandering to women's emotions and constantly coddling women is disrespectful, and it's completely the opposite approach we should take if women want us to believe that we're as strong, capable, powerful, and independent as women today insist that we are. Women consistently demonstrating that we're incapable of handling the facts and the truth shows that we are far weaker than we've ever been, and that is not who we are. Ultimately, if women could just set their emotions aside for a minute and look at what the real point is, it's the question of what do we value when we get to the voting booth. If someone just values themselves and their cats, then that person is going to vote for a significantly different path for the US than someone who actually cares what the future looks like for their own children. And I wanted to include this clip of Lauren Chen because she's awesome, and I appreciate her take on this.
And next, he briefly questions why people who have no stake in the future of the country should be controlling it. And I think that's a fair question, right? I mean, if you don't have kids, it's just an objective fact that you don't have the same long-term investment in the country as parents do. You know, none of these politicians are going to be around in the future, however many decades it is in the past, or even just a handful of years if we're looking at how old the Senate is, once they die, to see the long-term implications of the policies that they are passing now. But at least with parents, they have a vested interest in making sure that the country still does well, because, I mean, I'm assuming they want their children to do well. Like, this is just a fact.
And this speaks to an overall point that JD Vance made in his original speech, where people are now twisting his words to say that he wants to take all power away from people who don't have children, which is, again, just completely untrue. It's just another lie. However, it's interesting that Democrats want you to be scared of that, but they actively try to distract you from the fact that they have intentionally allowed millions of illegal immigrants into the country so that they can increase their voting base. And these people have no stake in the system whatsoever. And their vote takes power away from all of us, but they're not willing to have that conversation, and they probably never will. And in fact, they do not want you to have that conversation. Just keep looking where they want you to look and saying what they want you to say and believing what they want you to believe, and all will be good, except it won't. Anyway, I do want to end this by giving a shout out to all of my fellow cat ladies, because yes, I have children. I love them. They are my world, but I also have cats. I have 2 of my own and 2, including this one, that we are fostering, so I feel like I'm an expert on the overall subject. Oh, did I wake you up from your nap? Being a cat lady does not make you a less valuable person. We are in this together, but try to think of the actual point of this conversation and stop allowing yourself to be offended by things that aren't actually true. But I would love to hear all of your thoughts on this in the comments below. Please be sure to hit that like button. It helps me so much. Make sure that you are subscribed. I am trying to grow this channel. Keep it real, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.